The person who clicked this video, 10 seconds ago, no longer exists. Or rather, let me be more precise. The neural structure that was you 10 seconds ago has already begun to dissolve. Synapses weakening, connections fading. What you experience as continuous selfhood is actually a sequence of reconstructions, each doped from fragments the previous version left behind. Strange, isn't it? And I can show you exactly why this must be true. You've been told you forget things. Everyone says it. Your memory fades. Details slip away. But that's not an explanation. That's just repeating the problem with different words. No one tells you why your brain systematically destroys what you experienced yesterday. No one shows you the actual mechanism. And when you see it, when you understand what's really happening, everything changes. How you spend your day, what you pay attention to, what you believe about who you are. Think about this morning, your breakfast. Can you see the plate, the exact arrangement of food, the color of your cup? Most of it's already gone. Not blurred, gone. 75% of what you learned yesterday will be permanently erased by tomorrow, not tucked away in some dusty corner of your mind, deleted. And here's what no one explains. This follows a law, a mathematical pattern as precise as gravity or radioactive decay. So the question isn't, do you forget? The question is, why does your brain obey this particular rule when it destroys your life? Let me show you where this starts. 1885, a German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus does something strange. He creates 2,300 nonsense syllables. Lef, Bock, Tood, meaningless sounds, deliberate gibberish. He memorizes them, then tests himself. 20 minutes later, 1 hour, 9 hours, 1 day, 6 days. He's measuring something no one had measured before, the shape of forgetting itself. And here's what shocks him. Forgetting isn't random noise. It's not chaos. It follows a perfect mathematical curve, smooth, predictable, inevitable. Every single time he runs the test, the pattern repeats. Same shape, same drop, same law. Your experiences don't blur over time like fog lifting. They evaporate like boiling water according to an equation. This is the first thing you need to understand. Memory decay is not a failure of your brain, it's a law your brain obeys. The same way a falling object obeys gravity, the same way heat flows from hot to cold, your memories follow a curve. Ebbinghaus called it the forgetting curve. And once you see its shape, you can't unsee what it means. The shape of deletion. The curve isn't linear. That's the second shock. If forgetting were linear, you'd lose, say, 10% per hour. Steady, predictable, but that's not what happens. The curve is exponential. Steep drop at first. Then it flattens. In the first hour after you learn something, 50% vanishes. By the end of the first day, 70% is gone. By the end of a week, 90% has disappeared. Think of ice melting on a summer day. It doesn't drip at a steady rate. It rushes at first, water pouring off in streams, then slows to a crawl as the cube shrinks. The last bit lingers, but most of the mass gone in the opening minutes. That's the shape of your forgetting. Aggressive deletion at first. Then the curve flattens on whatever survived. Put simply, your brain deletes aggressively at first, then slows on what survives. Now this shape, this exponential form, appears everywhere in physics. Radioactive decay, the cooling of hot coffee, drought metabolism in your bloodstream. These aren't coincidences. Exponential curves describe systems where the rate of change depends on how much remains. The more radioactive atoms you have, the faster they decay. The hotter the coffee, the faster it cools. The more memory trace you have, the faster it fades. Your brain is following the same mathematics as uranium-238. Strange, isn't it? That forgetting would obey a physical law, that your most personal, subjective experience, remembering your childhood, your breakfast, your name, follows the same pattern as particles you've never seen in processes you've never thought about. But there it is, measured, repeated, undeniable, the mechanism. And this creates a problem, because if forgetting follows a law, something is causing it. Laws don't just describe, they point to mechanism. When Newton saw apples fall in a curve, he didn't stop at drawing the parabola. He asked, what force produces this shape? When Einstein saw light bend near the sun, he didn't catalogue the angle. He asked, what structure of reality makes this inevitable? So when Ebbinghaus saw memory decay in an exponential curve, the question becomes, what is your brain doing to produce this shape? The answer is physical, not metaphorical, not abstract. Your brain is deleting the hardware. While you sleep, actual structures dissolve. Synapses, connections between neurons, are dismantled, not weakened, not dusty, destroyed. The brain doesn't just let unused pathways fade like old paint. It actively removes them, tears them down, recycles the components. This was discovered in the 1970s and 80s. Neuroscientists studying brain development noticed something unsettling. Children have about 200% more neural connections than adults, twice as many synapses, and over years, the brain systematically prunes them, cuts them back, not because something went wrong, because that's the process. But here's where it gets worse, or rather, let me be more precise, here's where it gets immediate. Pruning isn't just a childhood phenomenon happening once over years. It happens every night. Each time you sleep, your brain evaluates newly formed connections. Weak synapses, ones that haven't been reinforced, haven't fired repeatedly, are marked for removal. And by morning, 10 to 20% of them are gone, actually gone. The proteins broken down, the structure dismantled, the memory trace erased at the physical level. This isn't a bug. You're not remembering yesterday. You're remembering what your brain decided was worth rebuilding from the rubble. No, that's not quite right. Let me be more precise. You're experiencing a model of yesterday, constructed from the synaptic structures that resisted deletion. The original encoding, the raw sensory data, the full detail, that's gone. What remains is pattern. The gist, the emotional core, the connections to other memories that made it meaningful. Your past isn't stored, it's curated, and this is precisely where it stops being theory and starts being your reality. Because if your brain is deleting the structures that encoded yesterday's experiences, if the synapses that fired when you saw that face, tasted that food, felt that emotion no longer exist, then what exactly are you right now? You think of yourself as continuous. The same person who woke up yesterday, the same person who will wake up tomorrow. That felt certainty, that you're you, persisting through time, depends entirely on accessing past experiences, on remembering. But the Ebbinghaus curve shows that most of yesterday's version of you is already destroyed. Imagine a city where 75% of buildings are demolished each night, rebuilt slightly different each morning. New materials, new layouts. After a week, less than 10% of the original structures remain in original form. Is it the same city? You'd say no. Obviously not. The physical continuity is broken, and yet that's what's happening in your skull. After 1 week, less than 10% of the original memory trace remains. The synapses that encoded last Monday's breakfast, last Monday's conversation, last Monday's thought about calling your friend, most of them are gone, dismantled, recycled into proteins for tonight's pruning cycle. Or rather, what remains isn't the original. It's a reconstruction built from fragments. The neurons that fire when you remember last Monday aren't replaying stored footage. They're generating a model based on compressed pattern that survived. So here's the question that follows. If the synaptic hardware that made you last Monday no longer exists, are you the same person? Strange. Deeply strange. When you remember breakfast last Tuesday, you're not accessing a stored film. You're not replaying anything. The original encoding, the full sensory detail, the complete neural activation pattern is gone. What you experience as memory is your brain reconstructing a plausible version from the scaffolding that survived pruning. You have never remembered yesterday, only what survived the night. Every morning you wake up with an edited version of your past. Lossy compression applied while unconscious. The you that experiences today is built from the rubble of demolished yesterdays. Continuity of self is not preserved like data on a hard drive. It's renegotiated daily based on which synaptic structures your brain chose to keep or destroy. You are not the same person who fell asleep. You are a close approximation built from selected fragments. Now, think about that. Let it settle. Your intuition rebels here, doesn't it? It should. You feel continuous. You know you're you. But that feeling itself is constructed from the memories that survived. You can't access the deleted portions to know what's missing. The gaps are invisible. Your brain fills them automatically, generates possible details, smooths over the missing structures. You don't experience the deletion. You only experience what remains. But the brain can't store everything. The energy cost would be lethal. This isn't speculation. It's arithmetic. 600 trillion synapses, each one requiring continuous ATP to maintain proteins, ion channels, receptor molecules, each one a physical structure fighting entropy, requiring fuel every moment to not fall apart. Your brain uses about 20 watts, 20% of your resting metabolism. For 2% of your body mass, it's burning energy like a furnace. Now multiply that by 10 for perfect memory retention. Every detail, every moment, every sensory input permanently encoded. 200 watts. For your brain alone. Your body can't deliver it. Your heart can't pump enough glucose. The heat would cook your neurons. So your brain makes a trade. Survival now versus perfect recall of then. And the exponential curve is what that trade looks like in practice. Like trying to hold a muscle flex forever. You can do it for a while, but you can't hold every muscle in your body tensed simultaneously for years. You'd collapse. Memory storage isn't writing to disk. It's holding a structure under tension, and you can only maintain so many. Forgetting isn't a failure of engineering. It's a constraint of physics. And here's where the evolutionary logic becomes visible. The rapid early decay. That steep drop in the first hours is a test. Your brain is asking, does this matter? Are you rehearsing it? Are you acting on it? Is it tied to survival, to emotion, to anything worth permanent energy investment? If you do nothing, don't think about it again, don't use it, don't connect it to something meaningful, the synapse weakens. And during sleep, when your brain runs its audit, that weak synapse gets marked. Proteins break down. Structure dissolves. Gone by morning. But if you do rehearse it, if you think about it again, use it in conversation, connect it emotionally, the synapse strengthens, fires repeatedly, gets chemically tagged as important. During sleep, it passes the audit, survives pruning, gets reinforced instead of destroyed. The exponential shape makes perfect sense now. Aggressive early deletion clears noise. Slower late deletion preserves signal. The curve is optimized for exactly this, keeping high-value information, discarding everything else. Your brain doesn't fail at remembering. It succeeds at prioritizing survival. And the selection happens whether you're conscious of it or not. Right now, as you hear these words, synapses are forming, weak connections between neurons, encoding this information. Tonight, while you sleep, your brain will evaluate them. Most will fail, dissolve, disappear. A few, if you think about this again, if it connects to something you already care about. If it surprises you enough to fire emotionally tagged neurons, a few might survive. By tomorrow morning, you'll remember the idea, but not the exact words. The concept, but not the details. The feeling, but not the structure. Because that's what the curve does. It compresses, extracts pattern, discards raw data. Actually, here's the better way to see it. Your brain isn't trying to be a camera. Cameras store everything, replay perfectly, and are useless for making decisions. Your brain is trying to be a predictor. It stores patterns that help you navigate tomorrow, and patterns don't need perfect detail. They need compressed signal. So the forgetting curve isn't deleting your life. It's sculpting your mind into a tool optimized for staying alive, but that optimization has a cost, and the cost is you. Not the biological you, not the body, but the experiential you. the person who lived through yesterday's moments. That version is mostly gone. What persists is the version your brain decided was worth the energy to maintain. Which brings us back to Einstein and why he'd find this beautiful. Einstein spent his life searching for laws that weren't human-invented rules but descriptions of how reality must work. Gravity, motion, energy. He found mathematical forms that felt inevitable once you saw them. Not arbitrary, not negotiable, just true. The way the universe is structured. And the forgetting curve is the same kind of truth. It's not a failure you can fix with better focus or smarter techniques. It's an optimal solution to a constrained problem. Your brain has finite energy. Memories cost energy to maintain. The exponential curve is what survival looks like when translated into equation. The clean version, your forgetting curve, is what staying alive looks like in mathematical form. Einstein didn't just find laws, he showed that the laws revealed something deeper about structure. Space-time isn't empty, stage where events happen. It's a thing, bendable, stretchable, real. The equations weren't describing human perception, they were describing the universe itself. Ebbinghaus did the same for memory. The curve isn't describing what forgetting feels like, it's describing what neural pruning is. A physical process, measurable, universal across humans. The equation is the shadow cast by actual synapses being dismantled in actual brains. And here's what makes it beautiful, in Einstein's sense. Ebbinghaus found the law before anyone understood the mechanism. 1885, he measured the curve. Neuroscientists didn't discover synaptic pruning until nearly a century later. But the curve predicted it. The shape said, something is being removed at a rate proportional to how much remains. The math demanded a physical process. And when scientists finally looked close enough, there it was. Just like Einstein predicted space-time curvature before anyone could measure it. The equation came first. Reality confirmed it later. This is how science works. You measure, you find the pattern. The pattern points to mechanism, and mechanism reveals structure you couldn't see before. Now remember those nonsense syllables, lef, bok, tud. Why did Ebbinghaus use meaningless sounds? He could have tested real words, poems, facts, things people actually need to remember. But he didn't. He stripped away meaning deliberately, like dropping rocks and feathers in a vacuum to see gravity pure without air resistance. Ebbinghaus wanted the raw law underneath, uncontaminated by emotional weight or prior knowledge or survival relevance. He wanted to see what forgetting is, isolated from everything that modifies it. And what he found, that 75% erasure by tomorrow, that's not failure, that's precision engineering. Your brain discards exactly what statistical patterns say won't matter. It's brutal. It's efficient. It's optimized over millions of years of evolution. The curve doesn't care about your nostalgia. It cares about your survival. But here's the part that matters for you. Right now, today, you can't stop the curve, but you control what gets rehearsed, and rehearsal rewrites the law. No. Let me say that more carefully. You can't prevent the exponential decay. The curve is built into how neurons work, how synapses degrade without reinforcement, how sleep triggers pruning. That's physics. But you can decide what's worth flagging for survival, what you think about again, what you connect emotionally, what you use. What I mean is, you can't prevent forgetting, but you can decide what's worth remembering. The city losing 75% of buildings nightly, remember that image. The question isn't, is it the same city? The question is a city the buildings or the pattern of what gets rebuilt? You are not the synapses, you are the pattern of which ones your brain keeps choosing to reconstruct. And that pattern is shaped by what you pay attention to, what you rehearse, what you let matter enough to fire neurons repeatedly, to mark synapses as worth the energy cost. Each morning, you wake to silence where most of yesterday's noise was. Your brain swept the room while you slept, cleared the clutter, kept only what passed the test. This means two things. You can't hold on to everything, the curve won't allow it, and your body can't power it. But you can shape what survives. The synapses that encode what you care about, what you think about, what you emotionally weight. Those resist the curve. Not perfectly, not forever, but longer. The forgetting curve is democratic. It destroys everything by default. But rehearsal is the veto, attention is the veto, emotion is the veto. Use them. Now, we can measure memory decay with extraordinary precision. Time constants, rehearsal intervals, synaptic protein half-lives. The curve is known to decimal points. But why the brain chose this specific mathematical form, exponential, with this particular time constant, we don't fully know. Not yet. Competing theories: energy optimization, atom compression to reduce interference between similar memories, evolutionary selection for brains that forget most things but remember threats and rewards. All plausible. None proven. I can show you that it works. I cannot tell you why existence structured brains this way. The mechanism is clear. The ultimate why remains open. And maybe that's fitting. Einstein spent his last decade searching for a unified theory, one equation that explained everything. He never found it. Some questions stay open. Some patterns point to deeper patterns we haven't seen yet. But the pattern we have found, the forgetting curve, is enough to change how you live. Because you started today thinking memory was a filing cabinet where details fade. You went today knowing it's a nightly demolition, a selective reconstruction, a continuous renegotiation of which version of you deserves the energy to exist tomorrow. That breakfast image from the start, most of it's gone, I said. And you probably thought that's sad. A loss. Something broken in how minds work. But that loss isn't tragedy. It's your brain deciding breakfast details don't deserve the energy cost of permanent hardware. The plate color, the exact position of the fork, the background noise, delete it. Not because your brain failed, because those details don't help you survive tomorrow. What remains? The conversation you had, the surprising news you heard, the feeling of being rushed or calm. Those survived because the curve deleted the noise around them. The signal is visible because the static was cleared. Or rather, actually, here's the better way to see it. You don't lose memories to forgetting. You gain identity through selection. The curve that erases your life is the same curve that builds who you become. Einstein was right. Reality obeys law, even when reality is you. Not deletion, not failure. Exponential survival.